Shavua Tov, I'm Rolene Marks. Welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land, where we take a look at your top stories making headlines every Monday to Thursday. Funeral processions are underway for Hillel and Yigal Yaniv, two brothers who were murdered yesterday by a Palestinian terrorist who opened fire on their car. The brothers come from the settlement of Har Bracha and were reportedly going to their respective yeshivot when a terrorist believed to have been from Lion's Den from the nearby town of Huwara opened fire on their car. They were critically injured and soon died of their wounds. Meanwhile, a massive manhunt is underway for the terrorist responsible. Last night, settlers in the region took matters into their own hand, burning buildings in Huwara as well as several cars. The IDF, Israel Fire and Rescue, and Israel Police Services arrived on the scene and evacuated as many Palestinians as they could and tried to stop the vigilantism from going on. This is the worst case of settler violence on Palestinians in recent history and has been condemned by Israeli leadership. Meanwhile, it has also been reported that some settlers attacked journalists who were there on the scene to cover the event and also prevented the Palestinian Fire and Rescue Services from getting to the buildings. Earlier today, a MK for Otzma Yehudi, Tzvika Fogel, who also happens to be the chairman of the National Security Committee at the Knesset, said that this is what he likes to see. He wants to see more villages being burnt down. His comments have resulted in calls for him to be charged on charges of incitement. Meanwhile, Israeli officials have appealed to Carmen for citizens not to take matters into their own hands, a sentiment that has been emphasized by Defense Minister Yoav Gallant as well as the chairman of Otzma Yehudi and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. Meanwhile, yesterday, the first reading of bringing back the death penalty, or instating the death penalty rather, for terrorists passed its first reading. The funeral procession for the two brothers will move from the settlement of Har Bracha in the West Bank all the way to Jerusalem, where they will be interned together at Mount Herzl Cemetery. We have been following the growing protests in the countries against the proposed judicial overhaul quite intensively here on the Israel Brief. And on Saturday night, for the 8th week in a row, intense protests occurred around the country, including here in Modi'in, outside the home of the Justice Minister Yariv Levin. An estimated 300,000 people, the biggest ever, turned up in Tel Aviv, and at least 21 were arrested for trying to block the Ayalon highway. Yesterday, reservists from the IDF warned President Herzog, or cautioned President Herzog, against the IDF or the military becoming politicized as a result of the proposed overhaul. 250 military intelligence special operations officers have also said that they will not show up for work should these overhauls be passed. They said they do not, quote unquote, want to be serving useful idiots. Yesterday, MK Rothman had put forward a proposal that would see 12 or 13 rather than the unanimous 15 be required to nullify a law. Yesterday, the finance company Goldman Sachs also cautioned about the effects that the proposed judicial overhaul will have on the Israeli shekel, saying that the Israeli shekel has been underperforming for the last couple of weeks since news of the overhaul was announced. In more positive news, because God knows we need it, yesterday an El Al flight bound for Bangkok became the first Israeli airline to fly through the Omani-Saudi corridor. Last week we brought you the story that Oman had followed in the footsteps of Saudi and opened up their airspace to Israeli airlines. The flight lasted 7 hours and 34 minutes, 2 hours less than the usual time, and 200 very happy passengers disembarked safely in Bangkok. And our last story takes us to Papua New Guinea, who becomes the latest country to open up an embassy, this time in Israel's capital of Jerusalem. Foreign Minister Justin Kenko, I hope I pronounced that correctly, spoke to his Israeli counterpart, Foreign Minister Eli Cohen, yesterday, who thanked him for Papua New Guinea's incredible support at international institutions like the United Nations and for the strong and close relationship between the two countries, and also confirmed the opening of an embassy in Israel's capital, Jerusalem. Papua New Guinea is a majority Christian country. And that brings us to the end of today's top stories. Don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. We have a collection of articles that you might not find anywhere except for Lay of the Land that come from the Arab world. It is also up on our Facebook page at Lottel's site. Please defy the Facebook algorithms by liking us, following us, and sharing our content when you see it, including this very Israel Brief. Our YouTube channel is at the Israel Brief. We are growing. Let's get those figures up. Let's see how many of you can subscribe in the next 24 hours by hitting that red subscribe button. And we're on Twitter at Lay of the Land 5. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, and don't forget to join me again tomorrow for your top stories.